This is strange. I'm at an abandoned Victorian Gothic mansion. I know that it is listed, grade 1 listed, but I can't wait to find out the story of why this was never lived in. Welcome to a new episode of American Viscountess. Each historic house I visit has its own unique atmosphere and story to share. But Woodchester Mansion in Gloucestershire has to be the most unusual and unexpected I've experienced so far. The house is nestled in a secluded valley in the heart of the Cotswolds, and it's managed by the Woodchester Mansion Trust, which cares for the building, conserving it for the future. But oh my goodness, it was unbelievable when I stepped inside to meet operations manager Max Raven. Hello?
Hello?
Oh gosh. Oh. Hi, Max, I'm Julie.
Lovely to meet you, Julie.
Nice to meet you. Oh my goodness, I've just arrived. This was not what I was expecting.
It's a bit different.
It's very different. As I was walking in, I saw all the scaffolding, which makes one think, oh, this enormous mansion is, under a huge renovation project, but that's not the case, is it?
Not quite. There's a lot of work to be done, but it will never be finished.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is. Let me show you.
Okay, great. Intrigued, I certainly was. As we made our way around the interior, Woodchester's story began to unfold.
So this
Oh my goodness.
is sort of a good example of the things we're dealing with.
I mean, this doesn't even seem like a mansion. It doesn't feel like a house. Where am I right now?
Well, you're in the chapel inside the mansion. So the aim of the house was to have it as a home, but also a place of worship.
Oh.
So you've got this sort of monastic Gothic
Yes.
throughout the building, but they really wanted to incorporate nature into the design. So the lovely vaulted ceiling above us has a huge number of bosses on it. We have 2 green men, we have one that represents the family pets, and then all the others are plants that would have grown on the estate. So there's some lovely fine details.
It's rather creative of the family to think of it that way, to sort of
Definitely.
bring nature and especially into their chapel, their place of worship.
The glass, that, for example, that's in the window is tinted green because that was supposed to give the effect of dappled light coming through tree leaves.
So who built this, or commissioned it, I should say?
So the person who commissioned it and had it built was William Lee.
Right.
He inherited a lot of money from his father, who passed away when he was about 13, but we're talking multiple euro millions lottery win. But he wanted to set up a Catholic community in the area, so he spent lots of money building things like a monastery, churches, and really setting up everything. And this was going to be the big sort of family home, the big final project.
Right. So he'd done all these projects using the money that he inherited.
Yes.
And then this was the last piece of the puzzle.
Definitely. Like I say, he didn't inherit the business sense from his father. He was very much a perfectionist and would overspend. We've got letters from Pugin, who did the original designs for the house, who basically said, what you want can't be done for the money.
Right.
So he found another architect. And
So
same
Pugin
story.
said, I'm not going to involve myself in this.
Yeah, although we do have the drawings, and it's very beautiful, and you can see where elements of his designs have been worked in with others.
Right.
So we are incredibly lucky here, as we have all the original architect drawings.
Right.
And they have been invaluable to preserve,
Yes.
and also to envision what would be there if it was ever to be completed.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This is absolutely sensational. But this is just one part. So this was the chapel.
Yes, so it would have been the heart of the home. It's also currently our most expensive headache.
Oh, well, I can see the scaffolding
Yes.
surrounding me everywhere.
So the scaffolding is effectively holding the space in stasis. The building was abandoned for about 20 years before the charity was set up. And during that time, there was a lot of water and frost damage to the building. So there's 2 buttresses either side of us here, which has caused real structural issues to the building.
Right.
So what you saw outside, that big over roof,
Yes.
not stopping any more of that happening. these are basically holding it in place until we can raise the multiple millions of pounds that we need to fix all this.
To fix all this. Oh my goodness. All around the building, there are clues as to how the mansion might have looked if it had been completed. It's as if the builders had put down their tools and completely disappeared.
As we go past here, this rather unassuming block,
Yep.
on this side here, you can see the original pencil lines that were put in by the mason for what this would have been carved into. So if you can sort of make out the shape of, it would have been either a cat or sort of chimera-esque creature,
Yes.
but it gives you an idea of they were still thinking they were going to finish this when work stopped.
Right, right.
So if you follow me, I'll show you some of the other things that they were so close to being finished. So this area here is the grand corridor. Again, it really sort of has that cathedral-esque impact. If I show you in here,
Yeah.
this gives you an idea of what it should
My
be
goodness. What?
like.
So this was all done. This was all done.
This was a later bit of work done by the grandchildren.
By the grandchildren. Wow.
Yes. So there was a plan to eventually give the house to the church, as they already had a large home and didn't have any need for this, as they described it, this big white elephant in the middle
Right,
of nowhere.
right.
So they finished this one room, and there were a few things where they rushed to complete it, and they've made a few errors which we now know are a bit of a nightmare. So if you've got any understanding of conservation, certainly with limestone, you wouldn't use cement.
Oh, I mean, I know that. So cement's awful. It can't breathe, doesn't work with the environment. It's horrific.
Exactly. When they were doing this, that was the new wonder material.
Of course it was. I
So-
knew you were going to tell me that.
Yeah, it's a
So they were patching in places with cement.
even worse. It's the power of hindsight. So if you were to look at, say, one of these side columns, you can see nice white mortar joints that go up.
Yes.
You get to this vaulted ceiling,
Yep.
and they're all grey.
I see them.
It's all cement.
Yes. Oh
So-
my goodness.
And the carving, although beautiful, is nowhere near the level of the carving in the chapel. So this was done on a budget.
Right. When he started this project, William, what year was that roughly?
This area was done for 1894,
Okay.
which is when they had a visit from high up in the church with the aim to try and give it to them. But it gives you an idea of what the house should be like.
Right, right.
This is what it is like.
I keep saying, oh my goodness, because I really can't find any other words right now.
It's a bizarre space, but
Yeah.
incredibly beautiful. So the little roof that's in the corner over here,
Yes.
that's Victorian health and safety.
Oh, wait, that's...
So just over the little corner spring of
Yeah.
stone, that's in case someone drops a chisel or a piece of stone from up above.
This room here, then I see doorways and fireplaces dotted around. Clearly there was meant to be floors here. Is that
Definitely,
right?
Yeah. So if you were to sort of superimpose the ceiling that we saw in the drawing room, the room we just came out of, into here, you get the idea of there'll be a vaulted ceiling here.
Yes.
This would have been the library. So you can see in certain places where the vaulted ceiling would terminate in these sort of cylinders.
Yes.
There would have been beautifully carved bookcases that would have gone up to there. So this would have been a beautiful, beautiful library.
Yes.
Up above that, probably bedrooms, like family room, bedroom. And then the floor above with the smaller fireplaces would have been either guest bedrooms, children's bedrooms. But you can really see how it's all put together.
And he had completed the roof, right?
He had completed the roof.
He
So
had.
the roof was on. It was very much a Mary Celeste type situation when Woodchester Mansion Trust was first set up. So there were tools left all around. If we go through next door, you can see one or two things that were left behind. So if we look up again, you've got this archformer.
Yes. So what room, again, we're missing floors.
Yes.
But what room was this supposed to be?
This would have been the family dining room.
Right.
So you think nice big table. You've got this big sort of space here, and we think that may have been for like a large cabinet or a massive piece of furniture, but it seems like a strange use of space, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But all the other bits you see in here, so this set square, which is enormous next to you there.
Yes.
This massive ladder, it's a little bit too big to make sure your walls are level, and by the time you use that and check it, if something's wrong, you're going to have a few grumbling masons.
Incredible. Look at that.
There's some lovely things you can see in here that you don't get to see anywhere else, just because at the time it would have just been thrown away. It would have had no intrinsic value. So if we look directly above us, you can see, for lack of a better phrase, trees that are basically sticking out of the walls and running across. These are, well, this is Victorian scaffolding.
So these other sort of pockets in the wall is where that tree,
exactly,
aka scaffolding, would have hung, if you like.
Yes. So those holes are actually called put-log holes.
Okay.
So you literally put log in hole, and you've got your scaffold. That would have then been filled in with either carved stone or brick or whatever was appropriate. But you can probably see a good example behind us is where they've used brick in place of stone. So your red brick, which would have been made on site, is far more heat-proof than this Neolithic limestone, which the building is made out of. So they've used that to line all the chimney breasts. It's also a bit lighter, so in certain places where there's like a dividing wall, they've used that to reduce the amount of weight that's coming in. So incredible. This room describes it really well, how well an arch works, with that central point sending the weight down onto these buttresses, which continue out with the gargoyles out on the south side.
Wonderful. Isn't this the most astonishing house? As we moved through the rooms, Max explained how the use of the building had changed throughout the 20th century.
So it was used by the American military, the Home Guard, training for D-Day landings.
No.
So the whole park was...
Americanized? Ish?
We've got some lovely pictures of a big military encampment on the fields outside the front.
I can't believe you've had Americans here.
Well, yes, it was...
I feel right at home.
It probably would have been a little bit warmer then. They had various heaters in places, but the whole estate, because it's so remote and so easily locked off, was a perfect training ground.
Right.
So we know that they were training for the D-Day landings here, building pontoon bridges on the 5 lakes that go further down the valley.
Oh my goodness.
They've left a few of their marks on the building, so there's name of an American soldier on the confessional booth. They even use the clock tower as a target practice.
Oh my goodness.
So we only discovered that in 2003 when we came to do the repairs. So there's a few extra holes in addition to the numbers.
Oh dear.
If I take you in here, this is my favourite room in the whole building. And it's mental for all the right reasons.
This is a bathtub, yes?
Yes. Not the most practical. One solid piece of stone, complete with gargoyle bath taps.
What?
These will all have been controlled by your servants. The other side of that wall, there's a little space. It's about wide enough to put your arm through to turn the taps.
So, but there wasn't they weren't planning any modern plumbing here.
There is space for modern plumbing in places. They were thinking about it. So there's actually an example here, you can probably see there.
Yes.
In various walls there are little risers, so you would have had space for water pipes, gas pipes.
So the water would come out how though? Because you mentioned this is like what is this cubicle here?
So cubicle, you would have had the pipes there, and it would have been like a turn tap there.
Yes.
So the servant could be the other side of the wall. There's it's now our stationary cupboard.
Okay.
But you would have had your servant there, and they could turn the taps. You would have had hot or cold running into your bathtub there, so you'd never have to get out. You wouldn't have to be being awkward and trying to get around the corner.
Right.
But you'd have your nice warm bath.
Oh my goodness.
We go through here, so you've had your nice hot bath, but you have a cold shower afterwards. So
gargoyles again. The Victorians love gargoyles, didn't they?
They get everywhere. They are a nightmare with pest control. So in this space, you've got these 2 gargoyle heads. So unlike the bath, where you've got a hot and a cold, one of these, this small little guy at the front, would have been your pull chain.
Right.
And the big one would have dumped cold water on your head.
No.
So refreshing in the summer.
I see. So it's not hot and cold. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So this is the pull chain, the small.
Yes.
And when you pull it, the big one dumps
it
the
on
cold
you.
water.
Yes. So this would have basically been a Victorian wet room, which is quite a new concept for the time it was being built. So
Yes.
they were thinking of incorporating new technologies. So it's a unique,
Yeah.
unique place.
And can I just ask, Max, was there only one bathroom completed? Because of course, in these old houses anyway, you'd usually only have one bath.
There was
in the house.
there is one bathroom, but there are two toilets that are dotted in different areas. So the ladies' one is on the first floor,
Okay.
and the gentlemen's one is on the ground floor by what would have been the billiard room if
Okay.
it was finished. So they're spaced out.
Right. But this was the only place to get your...
This was the only place where the family could wash themselves.
Right.
Next, we headed down to the old kitchen, which was used during the early 20th century by the grandchildren of William Lee. But there are also clues this room saw life before the mansion was built.
Yeah, I can see here these flagstones, so it's different from anything I've seen around so far.
Yes, so this shows a little bit of history that's pre-Woodchester Mansion. So the site has been reused and reused. These come from a Georgian manor house, which was pre-existing when Woodchester Mansion, when William Lee bought and commissioned Woodchester Mansion.
Right.
So the kitchen and scullery are in exactly the same places if you overlay the floor plans. So you've got so many more years of wear here.
Right.
And if you were to, in your mind's eye, see where the wear is running, so from about where I am, running out around you, then out through the scullery, you can see where the main path would have been. So
yes, of course.
So if you were in the Georgian mansion, you'd be effectively standing on the kitchen table.
Ah,
So that's the space there. But it's a...
Incredible. Okay, so the grandchildren of William Lee tried to revive it at some point?
They had various approaches. So some of them wanted to try and do something with it. There is a story that one of the grandchildren was engaged to a young lady and said, I have this lovely manor house out in the middle of nowhere. They came and visited and the engagement was called off quite quickly, understandably. But yeah, it's a lovely place to work and live.
So, okay, I'm going to catch you on that last one. To live.
Yes.
So, you live here?
I do.
No.
Yes.
What? Where? Where do you live?
I'm lucky enough to have a flat underneath the belfry. So I live there with my partner and our old English sheepdog. So it's a lovely place.
Really?
Yes.
So, do you have heat?
Some.
It's really cold in here.
Some. It's probably the one warm area of the building.
Right.
But even then, it's a bit more chilly than the...
Because you really are the caretaker of this place.
Yes. Among everything else, we're a very small charity, part of the Historic Houses Association, but there's 2 members of staff and I'm the one full-time one.
Right. That's unbelievable. So you live here. And what is it like? I mean, obviously you've got lots of visitors coming. So do you ever get a little bit of peace and quiet?
The time we got the most peace and quiet was during lockdown. While it wasn't good for takings, I really enjoyed having the sort of the place to myself.
This is the $1 million question. Maybe not, but because I don't even think that $1 million would even dent a hole in this place for the amount of repairs that are needed. But let's say I came in and I have just oodles of cash and I said to whoever, I actually want to make this into a home. I've got the structure here, walls, ceiling, and now I want to make it into a family home. Would that be possible?
The answer would be no, and that's for a few different reasons. The house itself is Grade 1 listed.
Right.
And
So it's of exceptional historical value.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're also a SSSI, which stands for Site of Special Scientific Interest. So effectively, in layman's terms, we can't sneeze without getting planning permission. So the site is both important for its historical value, but also for its importance to nature and the environment around it.
So the answer is no, everybody.
Yes,
If you were wondering, you cannot buy this house and renovate it.
Probably be better to go for like a church or something like that. You might actually it'd probably be cheaper. You've got about £5 million worth of repair works just to get it to where the stonemasons down tools.
Wow, I mean, honestly, not what I was expecting at all. But it was absolutely brilliant. And I do just want to mention, you mentioned historic houses, and Woodchester Mansion is a part of historic houses.
We are,
as is Mapperton, where we live, and it's a grade 1 listed home as well. And there are details down below how you can become a member of historic houses, and that really helps us with grants, with understandings, with advice, in order to make sure that these houses, and even this one, of course, that is now really grade 1 listed, triple SI, and people come in and do conservation works, and they can learn here, that they are protected for the future.
Definitely, and that's one of the whole aims between historic houses and why we enjoy these beautiful places that we're lucky enough to live in and work in.
Yes, exactly. So details down below. Thank you so much. Thank you, Max. It was a real pleasure. What a treat.
Woodchester Mansion is like no other historic house I visited before, and it was absolutely fascinating hearing its story from Max. If you've enjoyed this video, do help us continue to visit these wonderful historic houses across the UK to bring you insights and histories of these buildings and the people who live and work in them. By joining our Patreon community, you'll get exclusive access to extra content and behind the scenes, as well as American Viscountess merchandise, Christmas cards, live Q&As, and early access to all videos on the American Viscountess channel. Do check it out in the link down below. And I very much look forward to seeing you back here very soon for another historic house visit. Bye, everybody.